25 states have said to the Supreme Court, it's time for Second Amendment freedom. It's time for 2A liberty. Should be 50 states. But imagine crossing a state border and bam, overnight, you've gone from a law-abiding gun owner to a felon. Well, that's exactly what's happening in Massachusetts. And now a massive coalition of 25 states led by New Hampshire has had enough. They're taking this fight all the way to the Supreme Court. And folks, this could be one of the most important Second Amendment battles since brewing. Welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news. I am Jared, and today we're diving into a bombshell case that could finally slam the door on states like Massachusetts treating your rights like privileges. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button because these are the updates that gun owners can't afford to miss, and I have them on this channel at least twice a day, so check back often. This all started with a man named Phillip Marquis, a resident of New Hampshire. He was driving through Massachusetts, the nerve, when he got into a car accident. Like a responsible gun owner, he immediately informed the police that he had his pistol on him. That pistol was legal in his home state just a couple miles away, but because Massachusetts is a communist nation and refuses to recognize the rights of non-residents, he was arrested and charged with a felony under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 269, Section 10A Alpha, and that cop is a commie bastard. Think about that. A man that went from being 100% legal right there in his home state to a felon because he was over here across a fake-ass dotted line on a map. Now, Patriots, before we go any further, if you love America and you love your coffee strong, you've got to check out Blackout Coffee. This isn't your average store-bought brew. It's premium, small-batch roasted coffee made right here in the US of A by people who love freedom as much as you do. Every bag is roasted fresh so that you're never getting coffee that sat on a shelf for months. You're getting bold, rich flavor delivered straight to your door. And when you support Blackout Coffee, you're supporting a company that proudly backs the Constitution, fights for our Second Amendment, and supports hardworking Americans. And we send coffee overseas to our troops all the time. So start your mornings the right way with a coffee that tastes as good as freedom feels. Head on over to blackoutcoffee.com/GNG and use code GNG10 for 10% off your entire order. Blackout Coffee. Wake up like a patriot. Speaking of being a patriot, let's talk about Massachusetts. Here's the problem. Massachusetts has built in a licensing regime, we'll call it, that is the definition of infringement. To carry legally as a non-resident of Massachusetts, you have to pay $100 every single year, wait anywhere from 40 to 170 days or more for approval, take a Massachusetts-approved safety course, pass background checks, and then on top of all that, you must convince the chief licensing authority of the state, the colonel of the Massachusetts State Police, that you are, quote, unquote, suitable. Yeah, that's not a right, that's a privilege, and they're going to sell it back to you for $100 a year. And if you don't comply, you're looking at mandatory prison time. Sounds like our constitutional right, doesn't it? Massachusetts literally calls this a shall issue regime, but it's really a pay to delay scheme. And it spits in the face of the Supreme Court's Bruin decision. Now, New Hampshire and 24 other states, including Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming have all joined together to say enough is enough. Their brief to the Supreme Court lays it out perfectly. Your constitutional rights don't stop at state lines. You don't have to reapply for free speech in every state that you visit, so why should that happen with your Second Amendment right? The police can't demand a fee before you invoke your right to due process. Yet in Massachusetts, if you dare to exercise your right to keep and bear arms while traveling, you're treated like a criminal. And one of the ugliest parts of Massachusetts law is their so-called suitability standard. Even if you jump through all of the hoops, the state police can still deny you based on the idea that you might someday pose a risk. And it's pretty easy for them to find that loophole. Not that you've committed a crime before, not that you've been adjudicated dangerous in any way, just because someone in Massachusetts government thinks that you may be a problem in the future. This is straight out of Minority Report. Like, punishing people for what they've done? No. Punishing people for what some bureaucrat imagines they might do? Yes. The Supreme Court in Rahimi flat out rejected this idea, reminding us that the government can't disarm someone just because they label them not responsible. Yet Massachusetts is clinging to this unconstitutional standard. Now let's talk some history, because Bruen made it very clear gun laws must be consistent with this nation's historical tradition on firearm regulation. And here's the kicker. History shows the opposite of what Massachusetts is doing. In 1636, Massachusetts itself passed a law requiring people to carry arms if they traveled more than a mile from their home. Imagine that. In Rhode Island, in 1639, they passed a law that required men to go armed if they left the town that they resided in. In Virginia, in Maryland, New Mexico, Texas, and Indiana, they all had laws protecting travelers' right to carry. Even 19th century laws that restricted carry had clear exceptions for travelers. So what Massachusetts is doing today, treating travel with a firearm as a felony, is not only unconstitutional, it's un-American and it's ahistorical, and it violates one of Massachusetts' own laws. And here's the most offensive part. Massachusetts flips the Second Amendment on its head. Instead of presuming that citizens have the right to carry unless proven otherwise, they presume that you are guilty and force you to prove yourself worthy to exercise your rights within the confines of Massachusetts. Now that's the opposite of how constitutional rights work. The founders didn't ratify the Second Amendment so some police colonel could sit high and mighty and decide if you're suitable to defend yourself. They ratified it so that every single American, regardless of what state they're in, has the ability to carry arms for self-defense. This case isn't just about one man, or even about Massachusetts and New Hampshire. If the Supreme Court takes this case, it could finally answer one of the most important questions for gun owners. Can states deny reciprocity and criminalize the rights of travelers? Because they want to? Because right now, Massachusetts is not alone. There are other states that play this exact same game. New Jersey, New York, and California, just to name a few. If the court steps in here, it could set a precedent that dismantles these anti-gun regimes nationwide. So, where does this go next is the question. The coalition of 25 states is urging the Supreme Court to grant certiorari on this case, to hear this case, and strike down Massachusetts' unconstitutional scheme once and for all. And folks, this is why elections matter. This is why we have to keep fighting. Because without constant pressure, states will continue to treat your God-given rights as negotiable privileges. If you want to stay informed on this case and every other battle over the Second Amendment, then make sure you're subscribed to Guns and Gadgets, hit the bell notification, and share this video so more Americans know what's at stake. This is Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news that you won't hear anywhere else. Stay tuned, stay free, and as always, stay armed, stay safe, and stay American. Take care, y'all.